How about 7 things that real estate agents don't tell you about buying a home? My real estate agent didn't tell me that. I have heard this no less than a couple dozen times. When people find out that I sell real estate, they share their stories, no matter where they live and no matter where I might be and wherever they bought property. And of course, some things may depend on what the local process is in your area because it does differ in different states. We're going to talk today about all of these things. If you're new here, I'm Melissa Terzis, DC Real Estate Mama, and I am a realtor in Washington, DC metro area to include Maryland and Virginia. I talk everything about moving and living in DC and the whole suburban area. So if you hit like and subscribe, that kind of stuff helps the channel grow as well. So what's the first thing that real estate agents don't tell their clients when they're going to buy a house? It's the entire buying process. I can't tell you how many people I know who don't go through this with their clients. They just set up a search. I spent a decade sitting on a committee that hears grievances against real estate agents and then determines if a course of action for that, if there's a violation found. I saw a lot of crap, you guys, a lot of crap. But a few cases stuck out over the years. And one case in particular was a really sweet young couple. They bought their first home. I can't even go through everything that happened to them because it was terrible. Their complaint was actually against the listing agent, who was also the owner of the home. But what came out was that their agent, the buyer's agent, was awful and they just didn't see it. They didn't know this. They thought it was normal for them to get a combo code and to go tour houses by themselves. That's also illegal. You're not allowed to do that as a real estate agent, but this person did it. They also thought that it was normal that the home inspection happened without them being present. And they also just went ahead and used who their agent recommended, which is fine because I recommend people, but you're allowed to vet them. You can find them online and find the reviews and all of that. They also thought that it was normal that they were given a combo code to do the walkthrough, the final walkthrough for the house prior to closing. They actually even said in the hearing they didn't really know what they were doing and what they were looking for at the final walkthrough, which is how they ended up closing on a home that had no heat in the middle of a deep winter freeze. Guys, if your agent doesn't sit down and explain the buying process to you, if your agent doesn't hold your hand through each step of the buying process as you navigate it, if your agent isn't on your side and in the trenches with you, something is wrong. If all they do is take down what you're looking for and then set up an MLS search, you gotta run. This is not a good thing. They're supposed to tell you everything from A to Z, and you're not going to remember a lot of it, but it still doesn't matter because we're going to go through it again as we get to each step. And I don't expect you to remember that I told you this is going to happen on closing day or even after, but we're still going to go through it and we're going to keep reviewing it as we go through. That's what you want. If somebody doesn't sit down and all they want to do is know what kind of house you want and take you to them, that you don't need that person. Find somebody that's willing to walk you through everything. Next thing, we can't talk about crime, you guys, unless you know what questions to ask. Have you ever asked a real estate agent if a neighborhood is safe and then they clam up and awkwardly stammer, we're not allowed to talk about or discuss crime? All right, this is true. Real estate agents are expressly forbidden from telling you that a neighborhood is safe or from telling you that a neighborhood is going to hell in a handbasket. We have to direct you to verified sources like police crime stats or other sites. Most agents handle this wrong, though, in my opinion, when someone asks if a neighborhood is safe. There is no need for agents to be completely stupid here. There are ways to help your client through this, and many people get scared because they are worried about fair housing violations and steering people away from or to certain places. And so here we go. You are going to have to research the crime stats yourself. You can find the crime stats for various jurisdictions. They don't always tell the whole story, though. And this is kind of important. In a neighborhood that most people might consider quote unquote safe, I will tell you almost all crime is going to get reported. Stolen packages, somebody ran over your planter box, speeding through the community, you are going to hear about it. So are the police. If a car were to be broken into, you can bet your butt that multiple people are calling the police over that because it's horrifying to them. It never happens in this neighborhood. Anyway, this sort of flies in like stark contrast to what happens in the quote unquote less safe neighborhoods. People may not report every car break-in or mugging. It might feel like, hey, this is life as usual. This is life in the city. Or they might be afraid, they might know who it is and they might be afraid of retaliation because it's, a neighborhood where there's certain things that happen there. Crimes happen where there are three things present: means, motive, and opportunity. I know you didn't think you were getting a lesson on like crime and self-defense. Anyway, you cannot prevent somebody from having means and motive, but you can observe for opportunities, and this is really critical. You want to deep dive into a neighborhood. You want to drive through there at all times of the day and night before you're going to buy a house. You want to walk around at night and on the weekends and see how it feels. If that isn't enough and you really want to know the truth, I'll tell you how I do it. Ask me if I let my kids run around my current neighborhood in DC. I do. They go in and out of the house without us checking in on them. Then ask me if I would let them run around in this specific neighborhood or that specific neighborhood. I'm allowed to tell you that. It's my opinion that I might or might not let my kids run around there, right? Anyway, ask me if I would walk my dog late at night in my neighborhood, and then ask me if I would do that in this specific neighborhood. Do you see where I'm going with this? Of course, if your agent isn't me, you're going to need to ask this question in person. You have to do it in person because you have to watch their face. The look on their face is going to tell you everything. All right, next up, number 3, you can always negotiate. Another case that I heard when I was on the infamous committee was filed by the seller of a home against his agent. He actually felt that his agent didn't try hard enough to get him and his wife the most money for their home. And so we get the paperwork early, and after reading through tons and tons of documents for this case, I kind of thought like maybe it just he sounds like he's kind of bummed because he just didn't get multiple offers like other people were getting. But then something interesting happened during the hearing. He actually described the process of deciding on the listing price for the home and then how he learned that a neighbor was interested in the home. The neighbor submitted an offer. He didn't think that his agent actually fought hard enough for him to get more money. And so when he was talking about this, I said, I'm just confused. When you got that offer, even though you only got one, why didn't you just counter? And he was like, what? And I said, I'm just confused. Like, if you listed the home at this price and you really wanted more, why didn't you just counter? Like you just accepted what was offered. Like, I don't understand, why didn't you do that? And he's like, his voice like broke. He said, I didn't know that was an option. And he like started to tear up, and it was really sad. For whatever reason, his agent just wasn't clear with him that this was not a take it or leave it offer. He could have countered. If you don't know, ask, but negotiations really aren't over until they're over and somebody says, I'm done. So always ask. Next up, some states handle the legalities differently. All right, so back in the day, I wanted to buy a house once in New Jersey. I learned that Jersey is an attorney state. This means that your agent helps you find the home, but once you want to proceed to an offer, you have to engage an attorney. Each side has their own. Here in DC, Maryland, Virginia, that's actually not the case. We select an attorney to handle the closing. They operate as this like neutral third party representing the contract, interpreting language when there's a question, running title, and conducting the closing, which leads me to my next item. Never let the seller or either brokerage hold the earnest money deposit. It's rare that a seller is going to ever hold it, but with your contract, you will be required to post a deposit. There were times when one of the brokerages were going to hold that deposit. Occasionally, I still see like an old school fuddy-duddy agent that's like, I need my brokerage to hold. And I'm like, no, why? So you should really never agree to this. While there are laws that govern these escrow accounts, which is where your money will be held, you want this money held by the title company in their escrow account because, as stated above, they are the neutral third party. I own properties in multiple states, and every contract has treated the deposit differently. In Florida, your deposit is forfeited after a certain period, no matter what. It's not that black and white here in DC, in the DC area. Making sure that the deposit is held by a neutral third party is critical. All right, next thing that people don't tell you? Don't fixate on school scores, you guys. All right, there's a few things to know. First, it is very international in this area, and if English isn't the first language, the standardized tests that translate into test scores and then to the school scores are very tough to navigate. Second, people say that they want their kid in like the number one school, but in a lot of areas, like the number 1 through the number 10 school are all basically number 1. And sometimes number 2 is actually better. I always say this about the draw to Whitman High School in Bethesda because people just like blindly want to they'll outbid their mother just to get a home and get their kid into Whitman. But Whitman hasn't fared as well in the past few years compared to the other Bethesda high schools when it comes to college acceptances, so keep that in mind. Next up, you may not be able to get homeowners insurance. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about if you're one of those people like me who would just go hello and call an insurance company and secure a policy. Homeowners insurance companies nowadays will do anything possible to not pay out a claim. I recently encountered a situation where the sellers of a home that my clients were buying had filed 5 separate insurance claims in 4 years of homeownership. For stupid stuff too. Your homeowner's insurance company shouldn't be on speed dial. They are not an ATM machine. They are there in the event that you really need them. Not when there's like $1,000 defect in the venting of your HVAC or your dishwasher overflows. I have seen some people and some homes just not be able to obtain insurance because any claim that you file goes on what they call in school your permanent record. This isn't a good place to find yourself to be uninsurable. One day you might need them, and trust me, until then, they don't want to hear from you. So that is everything that you need to know that your real estate agent may not tell you. If you have any questions, my contact info is coming next.